Pastor Brett Bierman. I am the pastoral advisor for our RGI organization, which stands for Rural Gospel Initiative. And for the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to give a really short presentation, past, present, and future. And I'm first. I got this job in true Lutheran fashion. I missed the last meeting, and so I was appointed. That's kind of how it works in the Lutheran Church. If you don't go to the voters' meeting, you're the next elder. Or, see, these guys are all laughing because it's the truth. But I am here to give a little bit of history on RGI. And like all events that happen, you don't keep really good notes until you wish you had them. So this is kind of just a brief, this is what I remember happening. RGI kind of started as an idea among 4 pastors who were sitting around a table at a Caribou Coffee. We used to gather together to discuss books that we were reading. And then we decided to be real Christians and admit we weren't reading the books anyway. So we started having other discussions. And one of them was about bringing God's people together in our circuit. We had begun circuit worship groups. We would have an Epiphany service, a Ascension Day service, and then a Reformation service as a circuit. And we would rotate among the churches. And our goal was to get everybody in the circuit to come to these worship services. And as we did those, I was really fascinated as I watched them. Because if we would have a service at Our Savior's, the people from St. Paul sat up in this corner, and the people from Emmanuel sat in this corner, and the people in Trinity sat in this corner, and then the people from St. John sat in this corner. Son of a gun, they started sitting together. Like they actually knew each other. And so we started building this kind of sense of community within the circuit. And then we started circuit confirmation classes where we invited all the churches to send their confirmands to a central location where we taught confirmation. And we do that 4 times a year. And that's really an amazing event for confirmation age kids who go to a small church. Typically, I have 6 kids this year. I have a huge class. But we come here and there's 50, 60, 70 kids. And all of a sudden they go, we're not alone. There actually are other Lutherans in the world. And then we started doing other circuit events to grow. And through that we saw a need to figure out a way to keep Word and Sacrament ministry active in this part of the world. Because as we looked at our congregations, a lot of them are like me, old and getting older. My children are gone. This is it. And we also started to recognize something, and this really came from the lay people, so where this organization really has to lie. Because as we 4 pastors met and talked, 2 of them took calls and left the circuit. So you can't really trust pastors. With the important things. Now you laugh.
We're not pointing at anybody.
But you're not pointing at anybody. But name me one church that's any good that has their pastor as a treasurer. Right? Because we recognize the importance of lay members. And so we 4 pastors along the entire circuit at our Winkles, we recognized that this needed to be a layperson's organization. Because we wanted this to be here a lot longer than any of us were going to be here. And so in about 2017, 2018, we started meeting as a group Pastor Bobby here at St. Paul's sent out a letter to invite everybody to come here and to sit at this table, kind of like we did with this whiteboard right here, and we started talking. What do we need? How do we go forward? What are some concerns we have? And we had a criteria that we went by, and we let people make suggestions. What does this area need? Surprisingly, one of the primary things people thought we needed was a Lutheran radio station. That was actually predominant, until we figured out you can't do that. They aren't selling the licenses anymore. So that went out the window. But they also thought we needed to do ministry work at Northern. Because Northern, by and large, and Presentation, both the colleges in Aberdeen here, are predominantly local colleges. Kids from the area come here. And so kids from Trinity come here, kids from St. Paul's comes here, kids from St. John's, kids from, all of them. They come here to college, and we want them to stick with the church. And so we saw that as a need, and we saw the need for a circuit rider idea. And how do we accomplish that? And under the directions of Pastor Andreessen, who was the advisor before I was, and Pastor Bobby, who was before I was, who are the real brains behind all this stuff, who understand all this stuff, they started setting out the guidelines and the directions that we went, and we came up with articles of incorporation and bylaws and all those things you're supposed to have. And we formed an organization called Rural Gospel Initiative, with a really simple goal. We want to have word and sacrament ministry in this area. And it draws from the truth that I heard the gospel because my great-grandpa made sure there was a church that I grew up in. He sacrificed. He paid the money they needed to do to buy the land, along with everybody else. It's not my private church. But all of us have that same story. You have the gospel because somebody told you. And we want to go forward telling the gospel. And this is another tool to accomplish that. And that's how we got to where we are. The desire of God's people to have the word proclaimed. And the joy that we share together in fellowship as a group. It is fun as a pastor to sit back and watch this organization that started out with members from all the different churches. Now they identify themselves as RGI. They're part of that community, just as much as they are a member of their own congregation. They recognize their neighbor as their fellow Christian, which is phenomenal. I took more time than I was supposed to. It's all yours, Paige.
We've got an hour for lunch, so take all the time you need.
I won't take it.
Well, now you tell.
You know that I don't like to speak in front of groups, right? I will say that in your folders, there's always a commercial. Whenever you go anywhere, this is the commercial. And in your folders, there is a brochure that we have developed to give some general information about the RGI. But I also want to say that it follows so much what was said in all of the sessions we've had so far. One of the other things we talked about when we first started with the RGI is that we were hoping for a vehicle that people could make an investment in the future of the gospel. And that is one of the things, that's why we have opted for a foundation. The RGI is a foundation. And there's a lot of work that goes in all foundations, but it is a foundation. And one of the vehicles that we'll be using for the continuing of the gospel is, of course, money. We know that as populations decrease or as our communities get smaller, it becomes more and more difficult to support some of that. And I think we all have a responsibility to help support our called servants also. So the RGI is an investment in that. And I thought a lot about Pastor Cook's comments today, talking about do nothing quickly, but do something. And we have found, of course, that paperwork and the building of these kinds of things does take some time. But we have been very intentional too about what we have done. There have been a lot of ideas out there from the very, very beginning. The circuit rider, the radio station, all of those. But we also know it's more than just money. It also is people. And listening to Katie's session this morning, it really comes down to people and our ability to forgive and to absolve, but also about the relationships that we have. So for all of our areas, and right now, because we live in Circuit 1, and I don't think we can always do a good job if we look at the entire state or trying to help the entire state. Hopefully it'll grow to other areas, but we're going to concentrate on here because we are a very, very large rural area. We also know that, and at the same time, we heard about and became involved in the SMP program. Those were just, one was not dependent on the other, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yep.
But they certainly go hand in hand. So we are hoping that through the RGI that we will be able to do some very tangible things. We know it's going to take some time, but we are going to do something, and we are going to do it intentionally. You'll notice that we have right now 4 goals for the RGI. They are very specific. We hope very soon, we already are starting some of those. One of the goals is to facilitate workshops and training, and to facilitate ideas that would preserve God's kingdom. This is a perfect example of that. And I think we'll find later on, by the end of it, we'll have a lot of good things to come out of this. But it also shows the circuit congregations that we are servicing at this time, or we are supporting or benefiting, and a little bit about the RGI. We are a 501c3. Those kinds of things are very important, and we have learned a lot, I would say, about how to do those things. But we wanted to make sure that everybody knows about this. If you have any questions about the RGI and how to contribute, how to give, how to become a part of it, because we always need people. So, because it's going to be the people that do all of this. I think I'm going to turn it over now to Ray Larson, who is the president of our organization, to talk a little bit. Hopefully I talked about the present, and now he's going to talk about the future.
Thank you, Paige. Why is a cattle feeder or farmer up here talking about RGI? I bet you're wondering about that. Well, I'll tell you about an event that happened about 50 years ago. And I say event because in my confirmation class, we do not say stories anymore. We say events. Because stories can get mixed up with maybe non-factual things, okay? So, 1971, 1972, Ray Larson becomes a voting member at St. John's in Columbia. I attended my first voters meeting, and before the floor there was a discussion going on about a special gift that was given to St. John's, a sizable gift, a gift that probably you would consider, well, the gift was probably over half of our yearly budget. So the discussion's going back and forth. What are we going to do with the money? So partway through the discussion, a white-haired man stands up in the back, and he takes his cane, he goes like this. And he says the statement, and I remember it clearly. All special monetary gifts need to be placed in a fund to do the Lord's work outside our local budget, not to interfere with our congregational giving or tithing. He says that, he sits down. The discussion goes on, but I can tell you we passed a motion. The money was put in a fund outside our budget, and it grew. And I questioned it. You know, my first, we're taking a big side of money, we're going to put it in a different fund, we're not going to put it in the budget. So I questioned, I wondered, time goes on. The white-haired man passes away. The fund kept growing. And funds kept coming in. And we kept putting money in that fund. And I got to tell you, 50, 60 years later, I seen that fund work. So when I heard Pastor Bobby, Pastor Cook had to kind of take off on us, but anyway, when I heard him talking about RGI and a foundation maybe for special gifts, I'm going to tell you something. I thought of that white-haired guy with the cane. And so here I am. A white-haired guy standing up talking about special gifts. And you know what? I'm proud to do it. I'm proud to do it because this is what you were talking about today. Generational giving. That's what it's all about. I want to share some words with you. Paul's talking to Timothy now. He says, let's remember, I'm reminded of the sincere faith first lived in your grandmother Lois, then in your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded now lives in you also. Generational faith. Generational giving. Generational stewardship. That's what we're talking about. Okay. You say the word stewardship. You know what everybody does? Grab their wallet and clutch the purse. They want money. First thing that everyone thinks, hey, I'm human too. But really what we should be thinking about is we are all stewards of God's gifts. And we are commanded to use those gifts wisely and to give back, to share. That's what we're called to do. That's what we need to do. And I'm going to tell you something about stewardship. I'm going to kind of read a few words here. Those who grasp the practice and the depth and the joy of true stewardship, you know what? They don't learn it out of a book. They don't learn it out of a seminar. They learn it from faithful members. Saints that have went on before them. That's what I see. That's why I'm here. So often we look at stewardship. Okay, I'm going to give some money. Boy, I want to see some action right away. I really love that statement today when we talked about slow. Man, Sage, it's been slow, right? Yeah. I want to tell you how slow it's been. Like 3-4 years, took us that long to do bylaws. And you know what? I'll get into that too. It's been a great walk. It's been a great walk. So we think of stewardship as, oh, it needs to be done right away. Got to show something. But I'm going to tell you what. Our God is a generational God. Okay? He works on his time. Not Ray's time. His time. I want to tell you something else. I think we at Circuit 1 need to think back of all the saints and the members that have went before us. Think about the churches you're worshiping in today. Think about the sacrifices they've done. Think about the things that they've done that we can go to a church, hear God's special gospel, receive the sacraments, receive the forgiveness of sins. What a joy. I didn't do it. Somebody before me did it. I got to tell you a story. So, here we are. Ray Larson standing before you. Do you know St. John's Lutheran Church in Columbia had a parochial school for 35, 40 years? And I'm going to tell you, St. John's World had a parochial school also. Darwin, didn't they have a parochial school down there? I used to play them in softball. I don't know how long you...
Yes, we did have a parochial school there, 10 years or so.
Okay, we had it like for 30, 35 in Columbia. I got a parochial education for somebody sacrificing. Mm-hmm. Somebody gave. Somebody cared. You know what? I look back on that. Man, they gave. So, for a minute, I want you all to think about this. Circuit 1. Now, I know maybe there's some questions of theology and Question. Circuit 1, we've got 15 congregations, okay? I want to consider this here. Circuit 1 is one congregation, but 15 locations, okay? We're all working together. We all have the same goal, spreading the gospel message, okay? By supporting RGI, I'm going to take one step further. Where are these congregations? Well, you got Britain, you go all the way down to Redfield, you go over to Fernie, Andover, you got Leola, and you got Crest Park. That's a pretty big area. With one thing in mind, they're all spreading the gospel message. And with that in mind, that's where RGI then comes in, okay? If we can put all of our thoughts together, our prayers together, our financing together, you know what I see? I see daycares. I see preschools. I see visits in home retirement centers. I see a campus ministry. I see more visitation for elderly people that are staying at home. That's all possible. That's all possible. All we got to do is just have an imagination. Let the Lord lead us, okay? Nothing's going to be done without the Holy Spirit and working together. Remember, each one of you congregations here today, you're not alone. We're all together. We got one goal, the gospel message. In closing, in supporting RGI, you're supporting a generational organization founded on Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod Confessions and Theology. And I'm telling you, we worked on our bylaws. We're not here building churches. We're here supporting congregations. That's our goal. Supporting your ideas. You come with an idea. RGI, hopefully, we get some giving. We're going to be there to help you. Okay? We are focusing on Circuit 1 congregations, preserving and passing on the gospel message now and into the future. Remember, there's one gospel message. It's the same today as it was generations ago. So I leave these words with you. Paul's talking to the Ephesians, okay? Let us no longer be infants tossed back and forth by the waves, or blown here and there by every wind of teaching, and by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful ways and scheming. Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and held together by every joint with which it is equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. That's what we're about. Working together, the gospel message. That's what this is the concept of RGI, okay? Just keeping the Word of God pure. I tell my confirmation kids when they leave the class, I've got 7. Got your beat on that one. Okay. I said, you know what? When you walk out of this building today, you're going to get hit by the world. Okay? We got to keep it pure. We got to tell them the truth. You have so many congregations that are other. I don't need to get political right now, but put it this way: we want to keep it true. Okay? And that's what we're all about. Right now, 15 congregations in the circuit. Okay? We have 8 that are officially members, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to be calling on every congregation. We want to include everybody in this. We want a representative at our meetings to give their advice and share in the Word. And I'm excited. With the help of God, help of the Holy Spirit, it will grow. You got any questions? You talk to me. Talk to Paige. Any other ones that are in the RGI committee? Thank you.